guys, it's Judy Haddad here, owner of Orange Purple Passions, my healing LLC, and founder and executive director of 5 Purple Oranges. And this is another chapter in my journey through trauma called Hit by a Truck. So part 2, I don't have my notes today because I want to speak to something that's like more immediate in my mind. Part 2 is my journey to, I don't know if I want to say rediscover faith or find my faith or truly find, it's my faith journey. Let me just leave it at that. But a lot of that had a lot to do with the criminal case. And there's stuff about the criminal case I just can't talk about right now, which is gonna sound crazy to you because it's now been over for a year and a little bit over a year. But the criminal case went on for, the crash was August of 2014. The final court date was, I believe, April of 2017. So quite a long time there. Someone's very needy today. What came out of the criminal case for me was a lot of I say it to almost everybody I meet, politics don't belong in law enforcement. I say that all the time. And my other sort of lesson was learning to trust and having faith and not letting go of control and not having to, and knowing that someone would have my back, which has not normally been my experience. So, a good lesson. But I want to talk in particular, I've been talking to a family who also lost their son in a similar sort of circumstance, in a similar sort of location. And, well, I don't want to, I don't want to speak too much because their case is still ongoing, but the loss has been devastating to them in a way that sort of surprises me now. And maybe because I am 4 years out. My loss was devastating because Alon, at age 9, like he hadn't even hit his 10th birthday, it was such a short part of my life. So I was grieving for that absence of our time together. And then I was grieving for the rest of his, 60, 70, 80 years that he wasn't ever gonna achieve. I never thought that I was going to see him do everything I wanted him to have for his life, just given that I was an older mother when I had him, just being realistic. I just didn't think it would be the other way around, that I would go first, that he would go first. So you have to grieve for the life that was, and then the life that could be. And I had a lot of dark moments, there's no doubt. Dark moments that I had trouble pulling out of. But I had been told from the beginning by a lot of people who didn't even really know me, saying, you're smiling, you're moving through life. I've had friends who've lost children and they don't ever recover. They go to a hole and they never recover. And my thought was, I think we all think that's going to be who we are going to be. I think when you go to those dark reaches of your mind, oh my God, if I lose that one thing in my life that means more than anything, I'm climbing into bed and never getting out. And I don't think that's my constitution. But I also think, well, Alon wouldn't want that for me. And I had people telling me that all the time, so that helped too. So I had people there to just sort of kick my butt when I was getting in those dark moods, or hold my hand when I was getting in those dark places, and just reminding me of Alon's love. And as I was talking to this family, I was sort of doing the same. I don't know them, but I was like, but you have children and you have grandchildren and you have these other, these other responsibilities. And, I look at my mom, and oftentimes she'll say, yeah, I'm ready to go. And I know I'm going to see Alon, and so that's okay. I'm ready to go. And I can understand that. She feels like she lived her life. She and Alon had a very special bond. He was the only grandchild for 9 years. It would surprise me if it were like this family surprised me, but you're taking care of your grandbabies and you have, when you have so much to live for, I feel sort of a shock that you're not grabbing for it. So, after Alon was killed, I had a sort of a similar reaction to my mom, not in that I wanted to go and I was ready to go, but if I were to go, if something happened to me tomorrow, there's a lightness of not, and I've probably shared this with you before, but there's a lightness in not having to be there for someone. Like caring for my parents, sure, but they also have a lot of other contingency plans in place. Let me put it that way. But if I don't have to be there to mother my son, because believe me, I would never ever want to leave him without me. However, had it been a choice, had it been either me or he to go, I would have wanted him to stay so he could live on this earth. But my mom would always say, he wouldn't have wanted to be here without you. And my feeling is he would have been okay. He would have been okay. But there was that lightness of like, oh, okay, like the worst thing that could ever happen to me has happened to me, so I'm good now. And I think that's a different way of looking at it. Like, my mentor always says, it's all going to work out in the end. And maybe you believe the end is I'm going to go to heaven and see my loved ones, or maybe you think you're just in the ground and nothing happens. Well, it still worked out, right? It's the end. You lived your life, you're in the ground. So at the end of the day, I guess that's where I come from. Like, it's all going to be okay. I know my child loved me, and I know he knew how much he was loved. And it was a crappy, sucky thing that happened. But in the end, I can't trash his legacy by giving up and sitting in a hole and not doing anything and not moving forward. And I think part of what did keep me, all right, you are going to be in trouble now. Get. Part of what, excuse me for that, kept me going was this civil case, like wanting to see justice happen. And it was slow moving, and it kept me in limbo for a long time. But maybe that was okay. So now that I've rambled for however many minutes, I'm going to move forward with part of my faith journey, because like I said, part one of the crap fest, there's a lot of stuff I can't speak to right now, but I will. But part of that faith journey was having that time, that criminal case taking as long as it did, knowing that that was my my raison d'etre at that point. Like I didn't have Alon, I wasn't raising Alon, I wasn't doing that much with his legacy yet. Knowing that I needed to work on this, like that was where my energy went. That sort of allowed me to stretch and find what it was I needed to do and needed to be. And in the end, as I tell you my story, you'll see I repeated some patterns where I fell into something that wasn't the right fit. It's a square peg in a round hole type of situation. But it brought me to so many other wonderful things in my life. So I always believe in having gratitude for that and your lessons, and there's always a lesson. There's always going to be something to learn. And I beat myself up all the time. Believe me, that's why I'm wearing a rubber band today on my wrist, just to remind myself that there is a lesson, and I need to have gratitude, and I need to keep that purpose in mind as I live my life and not get mired into the negative thinking and the negative talk. And it's huge. It's a huge thing. All of us have those demons that we battle. So I'm going to start moving into my faith journey, and then we'll get to part 3, my purpose. So thanks for watching this rather rambling video, but I hope you took a lesson from it. I will say gratitude is a practice, and if you don't use that muscle, you lose it. And it's hard when you're in a bad place to say, oh, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. But even Alon, one of the best lessons he taught me is he would say to me, he would know we had a lot of struggles, and he would say, you know, I'm sorry, I feel like sometimes I take things for granted, and just and that makes me so glad that I struggled to create a life where he felt he could say that, where he felt, even though I knew life was really hard for us, but he felt that life was so good, he was able to take things for granted. Thanks for watching.